They found him alone in his recliner, slumped forward, the room dim except for the soft, flickering light of the television still glowing in front of him. His robe hung slightly open, a half-empty glass sat untouched on the side table, and the silence in the room was thick, the kind of stillness that only settles after something final. The paramedics listed no trauma. The coroner's report said natural causes. But when I heard the story, I knew better. I've seen this pattern too many times to call it coincidence. This wasn't just nature taking its course. This was something else, something silent, invisible, and far more common than people realize. What took him wasn't heart disease or a fall or anything you'd read about in a pamphlet. It was something I call hormonal collapse, the slow unraveling of a man's physical and emotional vitality, not because of illness, but because of long-term neglect. The kind of neglect that starts small, a decision to stop taking care of a part of yourself that no one talks about, a decision that society has quietly praised as discipline. And tragically, he is far from alone. Every single year, thousands of men over 60 experience this same kind of decline, the kind that creeps in under the radar. They begin to feel more tired, less present, less interested in life, in touch, in closeness. They chalk it up to age. They believe what they've been told, that slowing down is just part of getting older, that self-pleasure is something they're supposed to grow out of, that it's immature or shameful or unnecessary. But the truth is, those old beliefs are costing men their strength, their connection, their health, and sometimes, like in this case, their lives. And no one is saying it. No one is warning them. No one is sitting across from them, looking them in the eye, and saying what needs to be said. That giving up on intimacy with yourself, especially after 60, is not harmless. It's not noble. It's not a sign of self-control. It's a quiet surrender of the very systems that keep you alive, your hormones, your circulation, your emotional center, your identity. I've been a doctor for over 30 years. I'm Dr. Maya Kapoor. I've worked with veterans, farmers, pastors, school teachers, men who've built homes, families, legacies, men who are proud and strong and kind. And I've seen that same flicker of regret in their eyes when they finally come to me, when they're no longer sleeping well, when they haven't had an erection in a year, when they feel invisible in their own skin. They never thought something as private, as quiet, as stopping masturbation could have caused all this. Most of them had no idea that this one small decision, this one belief they picked up decades ago, was now backfiring on them in the most critical years of their life. And I don't blame them. How could they know? When was the last time anyone told an older man that self-pleasure wasn't just okay, it was essential? That it helps maintain testosterone, keep the prostate flushed and healthy, preserve mood and cognitive clarity, and remind the body that it's still alive, still needed? But there is good news. This isn't a lecture. It's a conversation, one I wish more men had earlier, with someone they trust. And it's not too late. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 real health consequences of stopping masturbation after 60. More importantly, I'm going to show you how to prevent them. These are not theories. These are medically sound, simple steps that have helped thousands of my patients feel like themselves again. And I want that for you too. So if you're here, thank you for showing up. It means you're still in the fight. It means you care, and it means you deserve answers that go beyond shame, beyond silence, and straight into truth. Now, let's talk about the first consequence, the one that often sneaks in quietly and steals something deeply personal before most men even realize it's gone. Use it or lose it, the vascular risk of abstinence. I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Picture a man in his late 60s. We'll call him Raymond. He walks into my office, not because of chest pain or something dramatic, but because of something quieter. He says, "Dr. Kapoor, I don't know what happened. I used to feel like myself, and then one day I just didn't." He looks at me, hesitant, embarrassed. "It's been months since I've had a real erection. It's not just performance, it's like something inside me just stopped working." And I nod, not because I'm surprised, but because I've heard this story more times than I can count. What most men don't realize is that sexual function, especially in older age, is a use it or lose it system. Your penis isn't decorative, it's not a symbol. It's a real, living, vascular organ that relies on blood flow, oxygen, and stimulation to stay healthy. And just like your legs would weaken if you sat in a chair for 6 months without moving, your sexual function deteriorates when it's ignored. Blood flow slows down, oxygen delivery drops, the tissues begin to stiffen, not in the way you hope, but in the way that leads to permanent damage, fibrosis, nerve atrophy, vascular rigidity. It's not a myth, it's biology. And the most dangerous part, this kind of decline doesn't come with a flashing warning sign. It's silent, creeping. One day you wake up and notice your morning erections are gone. Then, even when you're touched or try to engage your imagination, nothing stirs. Eventually, even medication, the blue pills so many men turn to, stop working. Why? Because the foundation, the physical system underneath, has already eroded. I've had men, proud men, sit across from me with eyes brimming and ask, "Can I get it back?" And sometimes, yes, with time, with therapy, with effort. But for others, it's too late. Not because they were careless, not because they did anything wrong, but because they believed that stopping masturbation was harmless. They thought it was a form of discipline. They thought it meant they were moving on, growing up, being mature. But in truth, it was the beginning of physical decline, the kind that chips away at a man's confidence, his relationship, his identity. Let me be absolutely clear. This isn't about obsession with sex. This is about maintaining a vital part of your health, a part that reflects blood flow, cardiovascular function, and neurological health. When you stop engaging, your body starts shutting that system down, not because it's punishing you, but because it assumes you don't need it anymore. But here's the powerful truth. You do need it, not every day, not out of pressure or shame, but enough to keep the system awake, even just once or twice a week, just enough to remind your body, this still matters, this still works, this still belongs to you. Because what you don't use, especially after 60, you start to lose. And that loss doesn't just affect your bedroom, it affects how you feel when you look in the mirror, how you stand, how you speak, how you walk through the world. And the hardest part for me as a doctor is that all of this is preventable, completely heartbreakingly preventable. All it takes is attention, not indulgence, not performance, just a willingness to stay connected to your own body. But unfortunately, most men don't realize that the vascular system is just the beginning. Because when you stop, the next thing to fall apart is something even more essential, your hormones. And once they crash, the consequences ripple through every corner of your life. Shall we talk about that next? Testosterone shutdown, the hormonal collapse. No one talks about. It usually starts with something so subtle, most men don't even notice it at first. A sense that mornings feel heavier. The walks they used to enjoy feel like a chore. Their appetite changes, not just for food, but for life. They're more irritable, more tired, more distant. They sleep but don't feel rested. They sit in silence more, not because they want peace, but because they don't know what else to say. And deep down, there's this growing, unshakable feeling. Something is slipping away. They just can't quite name it. When a man like Dennis, a 72-year-old retired firefighter, came to me, I could see it in his face before he said a word. He told me he felt like he was fading, not dying, not sick, just fading. He said, "Doc, I don't laugh like I used to. I don't feel proud of anything. And when I look in the mirror, I don't even recognize myself." That moment stuck with me because I knew exactly what was happening. His testosterone had crashed, not just from aging, but from disuse, from disconnection. You see, what most people don't understand is that testosterone isn't just about sex or muscles. It's about who you are. It's your drive, your spark, your emotional resilience. And while, yes, testosterone naturally declines with age, the drop becomes dangerously steep when a man stops engaging with sexual stimulation altogether. It sends a very clear message to the body: we're done. So the body, in its wisdom, scales back hormone production. Why waste energy on a system it thinks you've abandoned? What many older men don't realize is that masturbation, respectful, intentional, healthy solo touch, is one of the few ways to naturally stimulate testosterone production without medication. When arousal is present, the brain activates the hypothalamus, releases dopamine, and tells the testicles, even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, keep going, keep producing, keep the system alive. But when you go weeks or months without any intimacy, the signal fades, and with it, so do the hormones that carry you through life as a man. And once testosterone crashes, it's not just about fatigue, it's loss of focus, loss of strength, loss of desire, and worst of all, loss of self. I've seen good men spiral into depression, not because of anything tragic, but because their chemistry changed, quietly, behind the scenes. Their muscles weaken, their bones thin, their confidence crumbles, their cardiovascular risk rises. And the worst part? Most doctors don't even test for this until it's already done damage. Dennis was lucky. We caught it early enough, but many don't. They spend years thinking it's just stress or age or bad luck, but it's not. It's a biological system that is shut down due to neglect, a system that could have stayed intact with just a little attention. And this is what breaks my heart the most. The shame around male sexuality has robbed too many men of their hormones, their strength, their stability. I want you to know, maintaining intimacy with yourself isn't a selfish act. It's not about indulgence. It's about keeping your internal engine running. It's a form of care, a form of wisdom, because once testosterone drops too far, getting it back is a steep, expensive, and emotionally draining climb. Therapy, injections, monitoring, side effects. Not everyone responds. And for many, it doesn't come back at all. But staying connected to your own body, that's free. That's within reach, and it's never too late to begin again. But while hormones are invisible, their absence often leads to something far more physical, something you can feel, something that interferes with daily life. And most men don't realize it's caused by one thing they're no longer doing. Let's talk about that next, and why your prostate might be quietly crying out for help. The prostate problem, why inactivity leads to inflammation. There's a certain kind of discomfort that older men often don't talk about, not even to their wives, their doctors, or their closest friends. It's not sharp pain. It's not something dramatic. It's a heavy, dull pressure deep in the pelvis, a nagging sensation that lingers after sitting too long, a slow, frustrating trickle when they try to urinate, or the need to get up 2 or 3 times a night just to feel like they've emptied their bladder, only to find they haven't. These aren't just annoyances. They're symptoms of something deeper, something brewing inside a part of the body that most men don't think about until it starts to fail. The prostate. I'll never forget Stanley, 71, quiet, thoughtful, never one to complain. He came to me after a routine blood test showed his PSA levels had spiked. He hadn't had sex or masturbated in over 2 years. I didn't feel the need, he said. Thought that part of my life was behind me. What we found wasn't cancer, thankfully, but it was prostate congestion, and it was significant. His gland was swollen, irritated, inflamed from years of sitting stagnant. And what caused it? The lack of release, the complete absence of movement in a system designed to flow. Most men don't know this. The prostate is not a passive organ. It's a small gland with a very specific job, to produce and store seminal fluid. And that fluid is meant to move. It's meant to be released regularly. When it's not, it thickens, it builds pressure, and over time, it begins to inflame the surrounding tissue. That's when you start noticing changes, not just in your sex life, but in how your body functions day to day. Weaker stream, more frequent urination, discomfort in the lower back or groin. It doesn't show up all at once. It creeps in, quietly, steadily, until you can't ignore it anymore. And here's the tragic part. Most men go straight to medication, or worse, surgery, before anyone ever tells them the truth. That regular ejaculation, even just once a week, is one of the most natural and effective ways to prevent this. It's how the body flushes the system. It's not about lust, it's about cleansing, about keeping inflammation down and flow consistent. It's your body's own maintenance mechanism, and it's been there all along. Some of the men I see come in thinking they have bladder issues, but what they're dealing with is a prostate that's inflamed and overburdened from disuse. Others end up with chronic prostatitis, an ongoing inflammation that can cause constant pain and is notoriously hard to treat. And then there's the risk most doctors hesitate to say out loud: prostate cancer. A Harvard study found that men who ejaculate more frequently may have a significantly reduced risk. Why? Because stagnation invites trouble. When fluid sits for months or years, it can lead to buildup of pressure, of toxins, of cellular damage. I don't say any of this to scare you. I say it because too many men are suffering in silence, and they don't have to. What's causing their discomfort isn't age, it's inactivity. It's the belief that if they're not in a relationship, if they're not sexually active, then their body will simply adjust. But it doesn't. The male body doesn't retire from care. It needs release, stimulation, motion, especially in your later years, when circulation and inflammation become even more critical to manage. This isn't about encouraging behavior you're not comfortable with. It's about giving you permission and the information to take care of yourself in ways that are simple, natural, and profoundly effective. A gentle reminder to your body that you still value it, that it's still working, that it's still worth tending to. Because yes, a congested prostate can mean discomfort, but the final consequence, the one we're going to talk about next, strikes even deeper. It doesn't show up in tests or scans, but it changes everything. It's the one that affects how you see yourself and whether or not you still feel like the man you used to be. 5. Emotional erosion, the quiet loss of joy and masculinity. This final consequence, it's the one most men never expect. It doesn't start in the body, it starts in the silence. It begins not with a symptom, but with a subtle absence, a missing spark, a quiet shift. You stop masturbating, maybe because you think you don't need it anymore. Maybe you haven't felt desire in a while. Maybe you're not in a relationship. Maybe it just feels easier to let that part of your life go. And so, little by little, you do. You tell yourself it's fine, it's normal, it's age. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, something begins to fade. It's not your health, not at first. It's your connection to yourself, your feeling of being alive. I've spoken with so many men in their 60s and 70s, men who have built entire lives, raised families, served their communities, and yet they sit across from me and whisper the same thing. I feel hollow, not sick, not depressed exactly, just dimmed, invisible, like they're watching their life from the outside, unsure of how to step back in. That feeling, that slow, aching disconnection is real, and it has nothing to do with how much sex you're having. It's about emotional continuity, self-recognition, that wordless sense of, I know this body, I belong here. When you go months, years even, without engaging with your own physicality, without releasing, without experiencing touch or pleasure, your brain begins to shift. Your chemistry changes. Dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, the chemicals that ground you in joy and calm and connection, begin to fade. And without them, the world starts to feel colder. Your edges blur. Your voice softens. You hesitate to meet your own eyes in the mirror. It's not weakness. It's not vanity. It's the biology of isolation. Because arousal and release, even on your own, even once in a while, are not just physical acts. They are reminders. They remind you that you still feel, that your body still knows how to respond, that life hasn't completely numbed you. I had a patient once, Howard, 68, a widower who hadn't touched himself in over 3 years. He said, "Dr. Kapoor, I didn't stop because I didn't want it. I stopped because I didn't think I was allowed to want it anymore." And that broke my heart. He thought intimacy was behind him, that it was something reserved for the young, or the partnered, or the lucky. But I told him the truth, that pleasure is not a luxury. It's not a phase. It's part of what makes you you. And the moment you give yourself permission to feel again, to connect again, even in the smallest way, something begins to return, not all at once, but steadily. Like color returning to the face, like warmth creeping back into cold fingers. Because when men lose this connection, it's not just their sex life that dims. It's their laughter, their vitality, their sense of importance in the world. It's the subtle erosion of masculinity, not the performance, but the presence. That quiet, grounded confidence that says, I know who I am. And no pill, no hormone therapy, no outside solution can fully restore that. It has to come from within, from the willingness to reclaim this part of yourself, not as something shameful or silly, but sacred. So if you've been feeling that drift, if you've noticed a thinning of your emotional connection, your energy, your sense of being you, please hear this. It is not too late. Your body remembers, your spirit remembers, and you can come back to yourself gently, without guilt or apology. In the final part of this conversation, I'm going to show you exactly how, the real steps you can take today to restore what's been lost, and more importantly, how to protect it for the rest of your life. Reconnection and restoration, the path back to vitality. There's a belief I hear from older men all the time, this quiet, lingering idea that intimacy, desire, even touch are things you're supposed to outgrow, that after a certain age, your body is meant to go quiet. That craving connection with yourself or with someone else is somehow childish or shameful or irrelevant. But I want to tell you something, and I need you to hear me clearly. That belief is not wisdom. It is a lie, and it's costing far too many men their health, their confidence, and their joy. You've heard today what happens when you stop caring for this part of yourself. The loss of sexual function, the crash in hormones, the swelling and inflammation of the prostate, the quiet emotional erosion that leaves men feeling like shadows of who they used to be. These aren't just aging symptoms. These are warning signs of disconnection, not from others, but from yourself. And the good news is, none of it is final. Because your body still knows how to feel. Your mind still remembers what it means to be alive. And no matter how many years have passed, your spirit still wants to come home to itself. I've seen it again and again, men who thought they were too far gone, too old, too broken. And then something shifts. They start small, a moment of curiosity, a soft touch, a private decision to stop apologizing for being human. And what happens? Their color comes back, their posture changes. They look me in the eye again. They laugh, they flirt, they live. You don't need to chase youth. You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to the man you've always been, the one who still lives beneath the silence and the shame and the myths you were never meant to carry. This is not about lust. This is about life. It's about reclaiming what makes you feel whole, strong, capable, and connected, even if it starts with just a few quiet minutes alone. So, if you've made it this far, if something in this message stirred you, or made you pause, or even brought a tear to your eye, I want you to know you're not alone. Not in your questions, not in your grief, and certainly not in your healing. There's a path forward, and it's not complicated. It starts with respect, with permission, with the simple act of saying, my body still matters, my pleasure still matters, I still matter. So here's what I want you to do. Not next week, not when you feel ready. Tonight, find a quiet space. Let yourself breathe. Let yourself feel. No pressure, no goals, just curiosity, just presence. And if you've never done that without shame, then now, finally, is your time. And when you're ready, when you feel even a little more alive, I invite you to let me know. Type 1 in the comments. Not for me, but for you. A sign that you're still in the game, that you still care, that you're still here. And if you're not sure yet, that's okay too. Type 0. Tell me what you need. This is a conversation, not a performance. You matter, no matter where you are on this path. Because this isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. One written with strength, with truth, and with dignity. And I, Dr. Maya Kapoor, am honored to walk it with you. If this spoke to something inside you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, even just a word or two. And if you know a friend, a brother, someone quietly going through the same thing, send this their way. You're not alone in this, and neither are they. If you'd like to keep walking this path together, go ahead and subscribe. I'll be right here.